Morning. I'm Councillor Linda Curran, Chair of the Licensing Subcommittee today, and I would like to welcome you all back today to the reconvene the Licensing Subcommittee meeting. This is not a public meeting, but a meeting where the public can attend. Before we commence, I would like to outline the domestic arrangements for the meeting. We are not expecting a fire practice today. However, the fire alarm will be tested at 11 o'clock. If the alarm sounds for a longer period, please leave the chamber, then turn right, proceed down the stairway and through the emergency exit on the ground floor. The assembly point is in the public square in front of Cast, beyond the fountain. Anybody with mobility issues should wait in the refuge area near the lift and use the intercom to call for assistance. The meeting will be recorded and published on the Council's website. By entering the chamber, you are accepting that you will be recorded and your images will be retained and broadcasted by the Council. If anyone intends to record today's meeting, please ensure that this does not disturb the conduct of the meeting. And please ensure that your mobile phones are switched to silent mode. Thank you. I will commence the meeting. I would like to make introductions today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, I'm Councillor Leanne Hempshaw. I represent Roman Ridge Ward.
Councillor John Healy, I represent Bowlby South Ward.
Martin Greenhouse, Ward member for Tickle and Wadworth.
Hayley Oxley, Senior Licensing Practitioner.
David Smith, Licensing Officer.
Dave McMurdo, Training Standards and Licensing Manager.
Catherine McIntosh, Licensing Practitioner.
Gary Smith, I work for the holding company.
Julian Clark from Mambo.
Good morning, Chair. My name's Paddy Ware. I'm a licensing solicitor and I'm here to represent the premises licence holder.
Kerry Mambo.
Paul Porter, Mambo.
Nigel Hill.
I'm Oliver Norman and I represent the applicant South Yorkshire Police for this matter.
Good morning, my name is Andrew Delay, I'm a Health and Safety Inspector for Doncaster Council.
Good morning, my name is Michelle Clark. I'm the Food, Animal Health and Safety Manager.
Amber Torrington, Governance Officer, taking the notes.
Mary-Claire Churchman, I'm a Senior Legal Officer. I will advise the committee. I don't have any part in the decision making. I'll just advise them as and when. Thank you.
David Ballum, Senior Legal Officer at City Doncaster Council. I also won't be taking part in the decision making.
Morgan Lyons, Trainee Solicitor at City of Doncaster Council, and I'm just shadowing Mary-Claire today.
Is there any apologies today? No. Thank you. Exclusion of the public and press. Appendix F to the report and the additional information towards on the 3rd of October 2024 are exempt in accordance with the paragraph 7 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act. Please introduce yourself.
Do apologise firstly for ever slightly little way for the solicitor not aware is already upstairs. I'm Joseph Gordon for South Yorkshire Police.
Good morning, my name's Catherine Jarvis and I'm the Licensing Officer for South Yorkshire Police.
Start at 12A of the Local Government Act. Therefore, if members of the subcommittee wish to discuss these documents, Members of the public and press will be excluded from the meeting. Once those discussions are completed, the public and press will be invited back into the meeting. Please also note that when the subcommittee goes into deliberation to determine the decision, all parties, public and press, will be excluded from the meeting. They will be then brought back into the meeting to hear the subcommittee's decision. Item 3, declaration of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? Thank you. Item 4, application for the review of an existing premises licence, Mumbai, of 14 Silver Street, Doncaster, DN1 1HQ. We are here today to discuss an application for a review of an existing premises licence for Mumbai, 14 Silver Street, Doncaster. All parties who have indicated that they wish to address the subcommittee will be given the opportunity to speak. The procedure will be as follows, as set out in the report. Has everyone had a copy? Anyone not seen the copy? Thank you. Can I now invite the licensing officer representative to introduce this item?
Thank you, Chair. This hearing is to determine an application to review an existing premise licence in respect of Mambo's 14 Silver Street, Doncaster. The premises concerned is currently a nightclub licensed for the sale of alcohol for consumption on and off the premises, exhibit of film, live music, performance of dance and late night refreshment. The premises have refused recommendations from South Yorkshire Police to bring compliance within the premises after issues surrounding a drinks promotion and crime and disorder reports. It is believed that they continue to undermine each of the licensing objectives. I can confirm that the application has been correctly advertised and that the mandatory consultation has taken place. I can confirm all required notices of the hearing have been given and all parties have been made aware of the procedure to be followed at the hearing, both in the notes that accompany the notice of hearing and in the hearing papers. The options available to the committee when making its determination are detailed in the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that'd like to add to it? No? Thank you. I will now ask the applicant to address the subcommittee. Whoever is speaking, please identify yourself when speaking. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I'm Oliver Norman, representing South Yorkshire Police. As you've heard, application to review Mambo's premises licence. Subcommittee be aware of the options, but in short, the options are to modify the conditions, to exclude a licensable activity, to remove a designated premises supervisor, or revoke the licence. At this stage, the applicant is applying for modification of the licence conditions, namely to preclude the crisis buster promotion or similar promotions to be carried out by Mambo. The promotion itself is found throughout the bundle, and I don't think it's in dispute what that promotion is. So, effectively, unlimited drinks and pizza for a period of time over numerous bars, all I believe on Silver Street. At page 37 of the bundle, there is a Facebook post of that promotion. At this stage, it might be beneficial for me to find out from the subcommittee page numbers. That is page 14 of Appendix 1, but I have it as page 37 in my PDF. Which page number is best to refer to? So it's below page 13, which is labelled that. It's an unlabelled page, and it's page 14 of Appendix 1. That's the handwritten page numbers. It's not so important for this, it's just so I can work out later on how to direct you to a certain page.
If it assists the panel, I think that's page 60 on your paginated bundle.
I'm going to be in some difficulties because I do not have that paginated bundle. But I'll try and describe, but I don't think anything I refer to is particularly contentious. Thank you. So this is a Facebook post of the promotion in question. As I said, over 4 hours, over multiple venues. And later down in my bundle, 3 pages later, there is the promotion for £20. And again, different time limits. But that is the promotion we are talking about. The applicant submits that even in isolation, this promotion is in breach of the alcohol licensing conditions, which are set out in the bundle, but namely licence condition number 3, which is not to carry out, arrange or participate in any irresponsible promotions. The test, as it were, is any promotions which carry a significant risk of undermining a licensing objective would breach that condition. Therefore, in short, the applicant's position is that there's significant risk of 2 licensing objectives being compromised: prevention of crime and disorder and public safety. And it's on that basis the application is made. The subcommittee may be aware of similar other promotions. I think the most famous one is Slug and Lettuce Bottomless Brunch. And the respondent may try and allude to that as being a safe and proper promotion. However, that can be distinguished from this promotion in numerous ways. Slug and Lettuce is 2 hours, it's pre-booked with all the individuals, it's on one table seated, and you have someone bringing your drinks and food. That is far away from the Mambo's promotion, which, as I said, is over 4 hours, over 5 bars, no table service, at prime drinking time on some occasions. And the applicant say no proper way of being able to monitor what people are drinking. The respondent states that they can monitor people coming in and out of bars. That's significantly different to one server serving a group of people, having a good idea and a record of what they've drunk, compared to simply people walking around the street, walking into bars and getting free drinks if they got a wristband on for a prolonged period of time. Much of the bundle which the applicant has served goes towards trying to evidence this risk. And it's conceded that's an incredibly difficult thing to do in this type of circumstance when you have nightlife going on, people drinking on the wristband, people not drinking on the wristband, people carrying on drinking after the promotion has taken place. It's difficult to really pin down what's caused some of the distressing scenes we see that's been evidenced. However, the applicant's position is the promotion itself calls into question whether it poses a significant risk, and the evidence which the applicant relies upon just indicates that that risk is actually being found out in the promotion being carried out. I will refer to some statements. Again, my page numbers may be wrong. The first is from Mark Walton, Liquor Licensing Enforcement Officer from South Yorkshire Police. I have it at page 31 of the bundle. It's appendix 1, page 10. So we are going backwards in my bundle at least.
It's page 53 on the pagination, Chair.
I'm very grateful. So in Mark Walton's statement, and who is not present today, he witnesses a male outside of Mambo at 10 minutes past 10, vomiting, wearing a wristband. There's a picture of that male 2 pages further down. Again, going to difficulties with the applicant's case effectively to suggest that was an individual drinking in Mambo. We're not asserting that as a matter of fact, but just simply we have someone here wearing the Crisis Buster wristband, seemingly in ill health. If we then go down 1 page from that picture, we have the statement of Joseph Gordon, PC Joseph Gordon, who is in attendance today to answer questions if that would assist. He notes 3 incidences. The first is an ambulance was called for an intoxicated male in October 2023, and this is reported by members of the public. as referred to at the bottom of his statement on page 12. And pictures can be found on what's labelled page 14 after the statement and after the promotion Facebook post, labelled exhibit number JYG02. If we go down one page, that crisis wristband, which you can see there, relates to the next incident, which I'll take you to in PC Gordon's statement, which was on the 24th of February 2024. There's a report of a heavily intoxicated female who was violent to officers who was wearing the wristband. There's further evidence from other officers. There's an email from Inspector Wood, who I won't attempt to take you to his statement, but it's further down the bundle, my page 53 on the labelling. But he effectively says, after looking at this individual, she has lots of warning markers due to her previous convictions for violence and committing offences whilst in drink, and therefore she would be the perfect example of someone that's not appropriate to have access to such drink promotions. And then there's also an investigation report, which again, I don't believe is in dispute, so I won't take you to it, but effectively says the circumstances of this incident were that the individual in question was heavily intoxicated, in ill health. Officers approached her to try and assist, and she spat at them. If it would assist, I can take the subcommittee to that report. It is later down in the bundle. And finally, in relation to specific reports in PC Gordon's statement, the 30th of March 2024, a report of intoxicated males fighting with the crisis buster wristband. We then have reference to an anonymous report made to PC Gordon. This is known as Witness A. It's page 43 on my bundle. I'd be grateful if this one could assist in any way to find a paginated page for that. I'm grateful and apologies. It's not ideal. So this is an anonymous report, and from that it's conceded the evidential weight is less than that of a named individual who's here before you to answer questions. However, in short, it says this individual had become concerned due to seeing multiple people being carried out of Mambo intoxicated, and they first started taking notes of incidences after an incident on the 9th of December 2023 when they had to call an ambulance. And I think perhaps more importantly, this witness had then taken pictures of the scenes they've witnessed. And if we go down in the bundle from there, you will start to see a series of pictures. Effectively, of people sitting on the floor with wristbands on. Thank you. I'll direct you particularly to page 34. That's the handwritten page 34. Simply because I think that's the clearest image of the crisis buster wristband on somebody seemingly on the floor in the street. I'm grateful. The subcommittee will also be aware from considering the bundle that there's significant other evidence about other incidences that occurred in and around Mambo. I don't draw the subcommittee's attention to those in my opening because they do not directly go to the crisis buster promotion. The subcommittee may think they paint a picture of the activities being carried out in Mambo, but they do not directly relate to the key issue in this case, which is whether the crisis buster promotion poses a significant risk. It could be argued that the evidence is weak that these incidences relate to Mambo rather than the wider crisis buster promotion and other venues. The applicant's position is this: they had to start somewhere, and this was Mambo's. But ultimately, if the subcommittee find this promotion is in breach of the licensing conditions, the applicant can then approach the other venues to say that is the position. At the moment, it's undecided whether or not this is in breach. So this is essentially the first step about potentially eliminating this crisis buster promotion from a series of bars, not just Mambo's. And it's conceded that should be the forefront of the subcommittee's mind. It's not just Mambo's in question here that this decision may affect. But in short, the applicant says that the natural conclusion that can be drawn from this type of promotion, 4 hours over multiple bars, prime drinking time in bars, the natural consequence will be that people will drink far too much and become seriously ill and either commit crimes or cause risk to themselves. That is in breach of the licensing objectives, and that is the reason why the applicant has brought this case for a review of the licensing conditions and to implement something to prevent this promotion from carrying on and causing harm to the public. At this stage, can I be of any further assistance?
I would just like to ask one question among this. You have taken photographs of people in the street. On these, they seem to be doing nothing but walking by. And that's on our page 36, 105 of the booklet. And it doesn't say what street it's on. We've got a gentleman on the floor, a young man. It doesn't say on what street he's on. It looks like he's had a lovely Christmas night out. So, why is there somebody walking in the street? That's not been, that seems to be just going by the normal business of a good night out.
It's conceded in relation to the street names and where these people are that it is not certain, and we're not saying that these people are directly outside of Mambo per se. What I was drawing the committee's attention to are the pictures where there's clearly a Mambo's wristband on, and trying to draw attention to what is, I agree, the key evidence and more important than pictures of people seemingly walking in the street. I will refer that all these pictures were taken by the anonymous witness who didn't provide detailed statements in relation to what each of these pictures showed. But in isolation, the applicant agrees just these pictures does not show that Mambo or the crisis buster promotion is in breach of the licensing objectives. It is simply that when some of those pictures taken into account when considering the nature of the promotion tend to suggest to support the applicant's position. But frankly, the applicant's strongest point is just looking at that promotion, the subcommittee could decide that could cause significant risk to the licensing objectives.
Can I just add to the photograph on page 105, page 36, of the people walking in the street? It's very difficult to see if there's a band on these wrists. So I really don't know why that is in there.
And I agree that picture, and PC Gordon can correct me because he was the one who I believe spoke to the witness who provided these, doesn't seem to show anyone in ill health or any wristbands. But I would ask the committee not to discount all of the pictures just because some of them don't seem to show anything untoward. And I would invite the subcommittee to carefully consider these pictures and as you are doing, clearly scrutinise their evidential weight, but that on a whole, there is numerous pictures, especially the one I directed you to, which show crisis buster wristbands on people who seemingly are incapacitated on the floor. The natural inference being that's drawn from the promotion. But that's a question for the committee to decide.
I've got to agree with the chair in terms of the evidence, but you've already pointed that out. I'm painting a picture. What I would like to know is that what's happening elsewhere. I don't mean in terms of the crisis promotion or the clubs and pubs on Silver Street. What I am concerned about is that's not just Doncaster city centre. It's much wider than that. And therefore, I'm asking, are there not other people who are intoxicated, sick, whatever, needing help in other areas of Doncaster?
The application is to do with this one street. I can't personally give evidence about what the nightlife is in relation to the Doncaster area as a whole, and if there's other areas of concern. And I will refer to PC Gordon in relation to that, because I believe he does have a greater understanding. However, my point would be, even if there is other areas of concern with other areas and other bars, that doesn't mean that this promotion is in breach just because they're not before you today.
And in essence, I would agree with you, but I'm looking for fair play. That's what I'm really looking for.
Thank you. Just in relation to the picture, the lady in that particular picture you made reference to, I think she's on one on the right-hand side. She's heavily intoxicated. That was the one you said 4 people were stood.
Page 36.
Page 36. So the young lady.
36, 105, yes. There is 4 people together and a gentleman or a lady in the background.
So the lady on the right-hand side is arguing with them 3. They're having to grab hold of her and remove her away from that particular location at the time. I think the picture, unfortunately, does play, like I said, doesn't provide that evidence you're looking for. But she's having to be helped further down the road. So ultimately, just to kind of give you an overview of, people on the street, she's arguing with over half, we believe, who stood there heavily intoxicated, walking in and out of the road. I was led to believe at the time, luckily Silver Street is a close at the time to vehicles. So that's ultimately the essence of that particular picture. In relation to what you mentioned, Councillor John Healy, in terms of Silver Street, particularly we were looking at, so my job at the moment within the police is to look at the most serious violence. When I talk about most serious violence, we look at murder, manslaughter and attempt murder. We look at rape, robbery, assault with injury, which would be your Section 18, your GBH, your serious top-end offences, and we also look at assault without injury, so your common assault where people will get bruises rather than laceration or cuts. I also look at criminal damage, public order and arson in terms of crime. So in terms of Silver Street, specifically to Silver Street, we Q4, which will be January 23 to March 23, we had a total of 68 crimes. So 51 of this crime is of a nature of the most serious violence, which will fit the 5 criteria I mentioned above. 7 antisocial behaviour, and we've got 10 crimes, which will be your criminal damage, your public order offences and arson. I compare the Q4 figure to 23 to Q4 24, so January 24 to March 24. We see MSV has gone up to 64 from 51. We've seen a reduction of ASB by one, increased by one, I do apologise, from 7 to 8, and we've seen crime to 9. The total of this is 81, so there's an increase of 25% of these figures. I look at Q1 of this year again, so that's April 2024 to June 24. We've seen the most serious violence increase to 76, antisocial behaviour 9, and crime 15. So when you compare Q1, which is April 24 to June 24, to the same period last year, it's an increase of 41% in terms of criminality, antisocial behaviour, and most serious violence. We see a similar picture on Lazarus Court. We see a similar picture around the market, and we see a similar picture around Eastleaf Gate. In essence, altogether, what I'm trying to say to the committee is ultimately we're seeing a rise of most serious violence, we're seeing a rise of antisocial behaviour, and we're seeing a rise of crime in and around that locality of West Street, at Silver Street, Lazarus Court, Hallgate, Eastleaf Gate, and the market, which is more centralised to Silver Street, being the middle of it all. In terms of the pattern elsewhere in different parts of, as you alluded to that, obviously that promotion, we don't have any similar promotion anywhere else of that nature in terms of all you can drink for £20 or £10 or £15. Like we mentioned earlier, the most we see is your bottomless brunch, which is the slug lettuce reference, as Solicitor made reference earlier. We do see that. The Turtle Bay, we do see some other places, but again, it's very similar pattern where it's booked for an hour and a half, 90 minutes, and it's a sit-down meal, and the drinks is ultimately, there's one person in charge of 2 tables, so they can manage the amount of alcohol that's actually been brought to these tables. So in summary, we don't see anything of this nature elsewhere in South Yorkshire at the moment.
Thank you. I would like to just ask a few more questions. As Mumbai's got other outlets, other pubs within the area, what areas are they in?
Sorry, can you repeat? I didn't hear your question.
The Mambo, the company of Mambo, from what I can understand, they've got another 5 outlets within Doncaster. What area are those in?
So you've got Bowlers, which is next door to Mambo's on Silver Street. You've got Boogie Bar, which is round the corner on Hallgate. So it's about 5 minutes walk from Mambo's. Then you've got Mint in Lazarus Court, and you've got Hallcross, which is a bit further up the road on Hallgate.
Thank you. Can I just ask one more question? You did say about a female who should not drink, or was not well, who became violent, and she shouldn't be in the area. Is it medication or anything she's on? Because I'm just wondering if all the pubs, clubs, nightclubs was aware of this lady, and not to allow her in their properties. Has that been brought forward? Was she arrested for the violence?
She was arrested for the violence. It is in the bundle in like a case summary. All I know is the disposal was a charge. Ultimately, it appears that the warning signs relate to her previous convictions. So she's got previous convictions for violence, possession of weapons, I think, and being in drink effectively while committing offences. So it's effectively an example of someone who shouldn't be able to gain access to this level of alcohol at such a cheap rate because of the natural consequences to follow. It's essentially a point on the greater issue about having this type of emotion. There's always going to be, potentially in one view, vulnerable people who take advantage of this and then act in a way that does either harm themselves or interfere with the safety of the public generally. The applicant's position is the Mambo promotion doesn't do enough to mitigate that risk, as someone like Slug and Lettuce does, and that is the concern the applicant has.
Can I just come back on that one, please? If she's quite well known within the police and various other things, I would have thought that the publicans, the licence holders, would be made aware of this young lady? Or have they been made aware of violent actions when she's drunk?
Councillor, thank you. This lady actually lives in Sheffield. She's not from Doncaster. So all her offending pattern is in Sheffield. She's, on that instance, I think she visited Doncaster for one night and was involved in that particular promotion and ultimately ended up involved with the police. So the lady would not be known by the DPSs, by the licensing officer, or the local officers even. Inspector Wood knows the lady because he's previously been an inspector in Sheffield, and on promotion he got moved to Doncaster, and that was ultimately how he's aware of this particular lady.
The individual you're talking about, you're openly saying there were previous incidents, and obviously she's got previous convictions that where we're to assume are not connected to the Mambo's promotion. So I'm just wondering how you're attributing, on not just in that case, but in all the other cases of it being the Mambo's promotion, when you're clearly saying that there's a catalogue of incidents, even just for that one individual, but she came to Doncaster once and had a Mambo's wristband on.
It's not so much that we're saying it's a Mambo's promotion which caused her violence because of her nature, effectively. The point is this promotion is enabling these issues to occur because people like her who have got risk markers and have got previous conviction for this type of offending can easily get put into a state where they're likely to reoffend. And it's an issue just generally with this type of promotion that those, I said in one way, are vulnerable in society, can take advantage of them, and then they cause risk to themselves and the public. I'm not saying that Mambo's caused her issues. It's just an example of how that promotion can have a negative impact effectively.
Can I just ask another question for the handwritten page 16, the witness statement? Are you able to say whether the witness works on Silver Street, or is this just a passerby that's taken all these photos?
I don't know, just give me one moment. The witness wants to stay anonymous, and that's as far as we can take it, unfortunately. But if conceded, the evidential weight should be less. But it is, again, the main crux of that is the exhibiting of these photos, which the subcommittee has already referred to how without her being here, it's difficult to be able to identify what is going on, but it just helps support the application. But again, it's conceded. Just looking at the photos, insufficient. It's just trying to paint a picture about what could be happening because of this promotion.
Just lastly, when you mentioned the page 33, handwritten again, of the picture of, it's sort of a zoomed in picture of the wristband, but it doesn't, you made a comment saying that that person is clearly laid on the floor, but in that picture, that's not, if you're looking at that picture, you wouldn't know whether the person's laid on the floor or not. It's just a zoomed in picture of a wristband.
Again, it's conceded that that picture in itself is not that clear. You can see the floor in that picture. So it does seem like she's on the floor with her wrist on the pavement. My reference to people being laid on the floor, if we go up a couple of pages, we have a male lying on the floor. And again, up another page, we have two females seemingly passed out on the floor, leaning up against a wall. I just alerted you to that picture because that was the clearest one of the wristband. But again, it's conceded. And not all these pictures is clear. It's a crisis buster wristband. It's just trying to demonstrate what the actual consequences of this promotion could be. But again, just looking at the promotion itself, the applicant states should be enough.
Can I come back on it? Well, I can agree that your statistics of violence and drinking and various other things is high in Doncaster, and does need looking at by all authorities. But from the pictures, it doesn't show that, all the statistics. So we're just looking at Mumbai at the moment, so, you know, the statistics are horrific. But why does Lazarus Court, is that where one of the buildings are of this company?
Yes, Mint is the one in Lazarus Court.
Chair, I wonder if I could be permitted the opportunity to ask one.
Is there anything else you'd like to bring forward before we...
Not for me. I'm aware that I've not had chance to speak to others from the applicant, so I just want to make sure that there's no one from my team who wants to raise anything else.
I'm sure that PC Gordon might be aware of this, and appreciate you as the solicitor may not. But from all of this, there must have been surely contact with the licence holders in terms of trying to, shall we say, mitigate the circumstances. So a plan of action, for example. Was anything done regarding that?
Yes, Councillor. With Mark Wharton, unfortunately, who's a licensing officer. So I am not the licensing officer, so I can only speak on his behalf. So I'm not authorised by our Chief Constable to act as one. So I'm led really by Mark Wharton. He was the agreed person to cascade the duties of being a licensing officer. We've spoken to several people in concern. The delay, we've had a few delays in relation to this. We were trying to get in touch with a particular DPS. Unfortunately, we could never get hold of him. Ultimately, we were left with no other option but to speak to Mr. Julian Clark and Mr. Gary. Those are the two people that we ended up speaking to them. We've had several meetings highlighting our concerns, highlighting the things we were seeing, and we asked them initially whether they could work with us in relation to see whether we could run the offer. The offers ultimately to restrict it to one venue, so there was no movement in between venues, so I could go and drink in Mint, but then on my way back to the next venue that's offering the same offer, whether these people are getting involved with different altercation. We are aware that people were trying to get in other bars in between and being refused entry because they were using other bars, a little bit like a dance place, and ultimately, whilst they were in these places, they were not drinking because they had the crisis buster. So they were going in places, just dancing, causing issues, and then walking out and going to the next venue where they could get their use a crisis buster again. So we've said initially, could we just restrict that to each particular venue? And we were told that wasn't possible. And further of that meeting, we've asked whether we could look at having the venue, the actual offer reduced to certain times, a couple of hours. And again, we see the crisis buster will lose interest on people. I wanted to kind of raise a focus of in terms of we're looking at Martin's Law. We don't want to put money over people's safety. I wanted to kind of be quite clear and concise that people's safety within a nighttime economy was an issue I'm quite passionate about. I want somebody to go out, have a good time, enjoy what's out there, but get back home safe. So that was the angle I wanted to push to make sure I don't want any businesses to fall, but I just want them to work together with us. And ultimately, we had a further meeting. I was led to believe that the previous DPS wasn't present, that they had some personal things to sort out and they couldn't get hold of a DPS. So ultimately, we were faced again to speak to the manager of the venue at Mambo's, to be more specific, which was Kerry, Derbyshire. She told me she was a manager, but she wasn't the license holder. So I made sure I spoke to council licensing and our own licensing to kind of get a definite answer. Have we got a licensing person? Have we got somebody that hold a license? Because Mr. Clark and Mr. Gary wasn't mentioned or anywhere feature anywhere on any paperwork to do with any licensing. So eventually Kerry became the DPS for that Mambo's. We had an incident where a 16-year-old was arrested for a sexual assault and an assault from Mambo's itself. That triggered another meeting with the people I mentioned already. And this time we wanted to make an action plan in place, or Mark wanted to put an action plan in place to mitigate any further issues. We received, I believe, a long list of emails in relation to why they shouldn't do what we've asked them to do. And ultimately, that's why we're here today. In relation to, we've got a minor, we've had all the photos, we've had the concern, and we've seen a recent rise of demand in that particular area, not on us, but also on the ambulance service. I also make aware there was an incident on the 29th of September, which is last Saturday into Sunday.
Chair, can I just come in at this stage? We can't have... I do have an issue with anything new, the hearing regulations. We can't have new information introduced.
Something new, they have to have the agreement of everyone involved and yourselves.
Okay, that information only came to light yesterday because the way we work per quarter. So we wait, we're in quarter 2 now, which kind of runs until the 30th of September.
Can I just stop you there, because that information could have come into us either early this morning or late last night.
Yeah, so I became aware of that information late last night, 10 o'clock last night. So unfortunately, I mentioned earlier, we thought it was Andy Petterbridge, which was our first solicitor who's been looking at this, so all that information was sent to him. Unfortunately, we wasn't aware that Andy wasn't going to be here today, so all that information was sent to him last night and this morning. So
it's conceded that shouldn't be relied upon because it's not been served on any of the parties. It's conceded that shouldn't be relied upon in the application because it's not been served on any parties, or even myself.
Yeah, can I just go back to a couple of points that you made at the bottomless brunch at Slug and Lettuce? You say that that's so much more controlled because they have to stay there. They have to stay there and they've got a server. So you're saying that's much more, less dangerous than having to move around like the Mambo's promotion. But I just want to ask, do you know if a record is taken on how much people have drank with the promotion at Slug and Lettuce? Because you said that it is, noted and that the server takes a record.
Just simply that they would be able to take a record. It might be I misspoke with the terminology, but the point was that if you've got an individual server serving 1 or 2 tables, they can keep a record, even mentally, of what they've been serving to the group. They can assess them on a regular basis every time they approach the table, how they're acting. That's far away from, in this circumstance, when you've got people presumably going to a bar, ordering a drink, and that's the only interaction the staff are having with them in that transaction. And that's the point, that the involvement of that server is far greater than it can be in this type of promotion.
And just finally, I don't understand the issue that you've got with people moving around, because surely that's more cost effective to Mambo's and their promotion, because while they're moving around, they're not drinking. While they're dancing in another club, they're not drinking on the Mambo's promotion. So, you know, I mean, I suppose we'll ask them themselves on how cost effective it is, but I just don't understand your issue with that, because anybody else on a night out in Doncaster is moving around anyway. So surely those gaps in between where they've got to queue at another bar is all time where they're not drinking, means they get less to drink, means Mambo's makes more money.
So the point about moving around is, again, it's just, it makes it harder, the applicant would say, to be able to assess what people are drinking and to what extent, than if they're in one venue, sat at one table in one place. The staff there will be able to monitor them, rather than if they're in one place and they go into a new establishment who have no idea how much they've drunk at the previous establishment on this crisis buster, and they could then serve them a series more alcohol without being aware of that, then they move on and the same thing happens again. Rather than if it's in one establishment, the staff would have a lot better grasp about what the people have consumed effectively.
Yeah, I understand your point, but the person behind the bar serving to somebody who is intoxicated to the point of they can't stand, that would be illegal to serve them an alcoholic drink anyway.
Yes, but you would not necessarily know someone's going to be in that state whilst you're serving them their final drink, or teeing them up to be in that state later on in the night. It is simply the point that by spreading it over numerous bars over a longer period of time, you're increasing the risk. I'm not saying that just because you can move between bars that suddenly the risk is exponentially worse. I just say it's another contributing factor and something else which makes this more difficult to control and to ensure it's safe for the public.
Sorry about my phone going off. I thought I'd switched it off or put it on mute. But coming back to PC Gordon, is the action plan. What was the outcome of that action plan?
Thank you, Councillor. As mentioned in the email we received back, they decided not to go for the action plan. So ultimately, they refused to do the action plan, which we ended up, again, that's where we are today. Again, it's like we mentioned, and ultimately trying to work together, trying to make it safer for everybody. And that is ultimately what we were trying to achieve.
Going back to the action plan, because we have all read it, you're wanting to have the ID in place, ID scanner, and it goes to a central database. Where is this database that it goes to? It says in the notes that you've asked them to put an ID scanner in the place. Where's the database with everybody's information?
Yeah, so the database is held by GB ScanNet, which is a company ultimately that uses the ID scanner we made reference to. There's already 7 currently in Doncaster being used. ID scanner. So the database itself is held and it's all compliant with the Commissioner into the database and GDPR compliant. It's nothing to do with South Yorkshire Police or any other organisation. We cannot get access to any data from this. The way we get access data is purely through crime under the data protection in terms of investigation of crime and arresting offenders. So pretty much like your CCTV. So a crime has been committed and officers will attend each premises. And if they have an ID scanner, so this is the only time we're going to get access to that to see whether we can retrieve details of any suspect or victims.
Thank you. And who's going to pay for this ID?
At the moment, we, as part of a GRIP, is a Home Office funded project. So where the scanners are all over the UK. They works in Manchester, they are in London, they are in Birmingham, they are in big cities. So we decided to go down this particular project and work with other forces to see how it actually impacted on the nighttime economy. We've not launched it everywhere because we wanted to do our own evaluation and our own evidence-based policing to see whether does it actually work. If something works in Manchester or Birmingham, is it likely to work in Doncaster? So we had to kind of be very careful in terms of where we put them and how we put them. The other option we've also did was body cam. So where we see a lot of customers on customers violence, that's where we use an ID scanner. Where we saw where we had concern in relation of violence against door staff and staff from various premises, we've used body cam. So it gives us a good idea in relation to where we're going in terms of the evaluation. So in terms of ID scanner, we paid for this for certain places to make sure we can assess in terms of, again, to work together with premises. That was funded by the Home Office Fund that was available to us at the time. The other option that was given to us was if a licensed venue did not want South Yorkshire Police, because some venues just don't want any association with us for personal reason or for professional reasons, they will go and seek their own ID scanner at their own cost.
Come in there. This ID scanner, you would be picking up innocent people. Somebody would be holding their data. I do understand the statistics, what you've given, and they're shocking. But to pick innocent people's information up and held, that would be illegal, I should imagine. Is that?
BC Gordon said that they're compliant with the Information Commissioner and the relevant legislation such as the GDPR and data protection.
So that would be okay for them to hold the innocent people's information?
It appears that it would be compliant.
Thank you. I just needed to be quiet.
Could I just offer some extra information? I'm actually the licensing officer for Sheffield. Mark Walton's actually on holiday, which is why I've come in his place. We have the ID scanners in the city centre in Sheffield, and they all can link up together. So they use them for checking for fake IDs to prevent underage getting into the premise, which I think was the reason why it was offered for free to this venue, because we had a 16-year-old inside the venue that was arrested wearing one of the wristbands that was also a vulnerable child, which is all in the paperwork. So it helps identify those fake IDs if staff haven't got the full training on how to spot a fake ID themselves. So that can assist in that area. It can also assist in if you are going to bar somebody from your premise, you can put a flag on, which will then highlight to other venues in the area. If that person then tries to get into that venue and they've been barred from another venue for being violent or aggressive or causing an issue, then they can also be barred from other premises, and it's a way of alerting other premises to problem people within the nighttime economy. So it's a tool to help reduce incidents and reduce vulnerable people like children getting access to venues where they can get intoxicated and put themselves in those vulnerable situations. And as I say, this was offered for free to the venue, but they advised they didn't want one, and that was a cost to South Yorkshire Police, not to them. So I think from our point of view, it's disappointing that they've got clearly a young person in their venue. This incident's happened. We've got lots of intoxicated people. Have they got the staff training in place to identify over-intoxicated persons and to manage those within their premise to prevent them from having excessive alcohol intake? and, you know, have they got a risk assessment on how they're going to manage this promotion between the venues. We would expect to see a full risk assessment of all the potential pitfalls of running a promotion, which we do see with bottomless brunches, is risk assessments in place at venues to identify the potential risks and ways to mitigate that so that people aren't over-intoxicated.
Thank you. That makes it a lot clearer. Thank you. I will now ask the interest... I will now ask the interested parties if they wish to ask any questions in relation to the applicant's submission. Thank you.
Chair,
it will be in questions, not arguments, not in...
I appreciate that, Chair, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to do that. I only have two questions, if I may. The first one is for the Sheffield licensing officer who's just talked to you about risk assessments. Have you read the agenda pack for today?
I only have Mark Walton's our evidence. I wasn't provided with. I came here about an hour early, but wasn't able to see anybody.
I did ask a question if everybody had got the pack, if everybody had read the pack, and we would assure that everybody had read the pack.
So so you haven't read the very detailed risk assessment that's in the pack?
No, I haven't read that.
And one question for PC Gordon. PC Gordon, please. Page 105 is the photograph that we've been talking about. And prior to that, from page 71 to page 113 are the series... I'm not taking it personally. 213 are the balance of the photographs. Can you just clarify to the committee, please? Is it witness A, whose witness statement is at page 65, who provided all of these photographs to you?
Yes.
Because when you were answering questions in relation to page 105 and that photograph, questions from the chair, you were talking about things that were happening between the parties in that photograph. You weren't present when that photograph was taken, was you?
No, I wasn't.
So what you then said to the committee about what was happening in that photograph and down the street is again what was passed on to you by witness A, not in your own personal knowledge.
Yes. To answer your question, I think the amount of photo I was provided with, so ultimately, no problem. So ultimately, this is what was described, yes.
Yeah. So none of that's in your first-hand knowledge. You weren't there. You didn't see what was happening. It's all been passed on to you by witness A.
That's correct.
Thank you. Those are the clarification questions that I had, Chair.
I just wanted to clarify how many hours the promotion called Crisis Buster is for.
Councillor, if it assists, I will deal with that in my submission. I'll talk you through how it all works.
I will now ask the interested parties to address the subcommittee. Thank you.
Chair, thank you. I don't know whether, I think Mr Delaney's been classed as an interested party. I don't... It's a slightly different situation because you've obviously got the applicant who's applying for the review. I think Mr Delaney's joined in the review, and then I'm obviously for the premises licence holder. I don't know whether you would find it easier if Mr Delaney set out his issues now, and then I can deal with them all in my submissions. But I'm happy to do whatever you think is best.
Mr Delaney, is this your information?
Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you.
I think it starts on page 207 of the bundle. So there's myself, there's a health and safety inspector, but there's also an additional representation from a colleague of mine, Michelle Taylor, Michelle Clark, who's sat next to me as well. I think you've got that information in your bundle. But yeah, my information starts on Appendix F of the bundle, page 207.
I will now invite the interested party if they wish to summarise their submission.
Chair, it's for
the
premises
licence.
to present their case.
It's, yeah, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I think we rarely deal with reviews. It's always back to front with a review, so I'm grateful for the opportunity now to address you. Can I start by saying that my clients are desperately keen that my submissions on the law, which are important in this case, don't colour your view of them as to how they want to proceed with their 6 premises, not 5, as has been mentioned by the police, that are involved in this deal that has helped to resurrect, to some degree, the nighttime economy in parts of Doncaster. I have to deal with the law, and I have to deal with submissions against what the police have said to represent their interests properly, and you'll be advised by your learned legal advisor on the legal points. But as a starting point, I want to point out that we want to continue to work with all of the authorities, my clients. There was a pub watch meeting only just over a week ago, and it was chaired by Julian, so it's not something from a starting point where I want you to think that we're not trying to do our very best for the centre of Doncaster, because that's not the case. But it is important that I set out everything on behalf of my client, and I am going to have to go through the police case, because what the police said in their opening to you, it will be my submissions, is wholly unfair, and as one of the councillors said, fairness is a particularly important thing in all of these proceedings, and we have to deal with real evidence. Now, what you've been told in the opening by the police legal representative is the evidence is weak on relation to Mambo, but we have to start somewhere. In my submissions, it's questionable whether the threshold for a review has been reached in relation to these premises. It has now, and I'm not going to try and frustrate that review proceedings. In fact, I'm going to offer alternative conditions during my presentation to modernise what is potentially a bit of an outdated premises licence. So, my clients operate Ballers, Hallcross, Mint, Boogie Bar and Mambo, as the police have told you. They haven't mentioned Social, which is the other premises that they operate, which is the 6 that are covered by the cost of living crisis buster. The hours that you get the benefit of the deal change from the different premises to allow for a circuit environment to happen, so that people who enjoy and want to move around from one set of premises to the next can. So Ballers 8 till 10 p.m, Hall Cross 8 till 10 p.m, Mint 9 till midnight, Boogie Bar 9 till 11, Social 9:30 till 11:30, Mambo 10 till 12. And I think Councillor Hempsell pointed out that it could be argued, and I will be arguing, that this deal is better and more safe than lots of bottomless brunches that operate not just in Doncaster but nationally, because you are moving around, you've got different types of premises, different styles of operation, live music at the Social with a band playing, pizza and food included in all of the deals at all of the premises. You're getting fresh air, you're moving around between the premises, you're stopping drinking, and you're being assessed by the door team and the bar staff at every venue to see whether you should be able to have a drink. And as Councillor Hempsell again pointed out, it's a criminal offence to serve alcohol to anybody who's too drunk to be having a drink. So it's my submissions that this is actually a very well thought out, a very well moderated, and a very well risk assessed deal for the people of Doncaster. These premises employ 100 staff, they employ doormen, they provide the facility for local DJs and bands to play within them, and they create an environment where the customer base in Doncaster feel that they can get value. I'm a licensing lawyer, and it's always disappointing in any environment that you're in to see a situation where some people abuse any deal that's going on or drink too much and get themselves into difficulties. That's a world that we live in. That's why we've got such a strong risk assessment and a training package which is detailed in the documents that you have, to make sure that all of our staff behave in such a way where these things don't become the risk that it's being suggested by the police that they come. Now, I'm just going to deal very, very briefly with the current premises licence and what is a situation in relation to the mandatory conditions. So if you turn to page 42 of your bundle, this is the premises licence as is. And mandatory conditions is the headline at the top, and paragraph 3A deals with the definition of potentially what could become defined as an irresponsible drinks promotion. And just read that, please. Games or other activities which require or encourage or are designed to require or encourage individuals to drink a quantity of alcohol within a time limit. Our deal doesn't fall into that categorisation. It's further expanded on in the National Guidance document. So we're all bound by Section 182 guidance, which is issued by the Home Office, and you would expect the Home Office, in looking at irresponsible drinks promotions, to have a view on it, and they do. And in typical lawyer fashion, I've lost the page, so just bear with me a second. So the Section 182 guidance document, which is something that we all have to have regard to, details what the government believe are the issues in relation to irresponsible drinks promotions. And if we look at, or you don't have this in front of you, but your legal advisor will have access to this document and can assist you with it. What the provisions are in relation to this If you just bear with me a second, I've nearly found it. Yes, it's 10.41 at page 91. I'm grateful for the assistance. So, page 91 in the current version, and it's paragraph 10.41. So it says irresponsible promotions can include the provision of unlimited or unspecified quantities of alcohol free or for a fixed or discounted price where there is significant risk that such a promotion would undermine one or more of the licensing objectives. So having a deal per se does not automatically trigger the breaching of the mandatory condition. It says can include, and where there is a significant risk that such a promotion would undermine the licensing objectives. What we say here is that our risk assessment and way that we operate this is such that there isn't a risk. This isn't an irresponsible drinks promotion, and if it were an irresponsible drinks promotion, the correct way for the police to have gone about it would have been to prosecute under the section 136 offence of carrying out an unlawful licensable activity. To bring about a review of one of the premises that has this deal, in my submissions, is ill-conceived, because there are another 5 premises that are part of this deal. So I struggle to understand from a starting point when I read the papers why the police were launching a review of one of those premises. Now, moving on from that, we have the police case. And I, as a lawyer who act for police forces and act for local authorities and act for operators, have to be critical when I feel there is a need to be critical. And the police case in this case is unfair, not balanced, it's biased, and it's focused at trying to attack an operator who is doing his best to promote the licensing objectives and provide a safe environment for the whole of Doncaster. And that's why I said I've got to make some submissions. The police can fall out with me. I don't want them to fall out with my clients. They're going to be here when I leave. But it's important that I bring out to you as a licensing authority why I feel that these submissions that have been made by the police are unfair. And I'm just going to go through some of the issues. But I think it's wrong from a starting point that this case was adjourned to a date where we could all be here, because my client couldn't be here when it was first before you, and the licensing officer for Doncaster isn't here today. The police send an officer from Sheffield who hasn't read the papers. I apologise for her for saying this. She's been put in a difficult position. But when she talks about the fact that we should have a risk assessment, it's in your papers and hasn't been read. Now, in my submissions, that's not fair. That's not balanced. It's not prepared. You've got to make an informed decision on the evidence. And I can't ask some of the questions I would wish to ask of Mr. Walton when he's not here. But that's what the police have chosen to do in relation to their case. Can I just pick up some of the points in the evidence and start at page 53? So this talks about being on duty in foot patrol within Doncaster city centre when a young male who looked as if he was under the influence of drink was seen at 22:10. I've just pointed out to you that this deal and Mambo starts at 10 o'clock at night. So the common sense conclusion is he couldn't have drunk in 10 minutes in Mambo alcohol to get himself into the state that the officer saw him in. You cannot be sure if he even went into the premises. To try and link the fact that somebody who's on Silver Street who's quite drunk is a piece of evidence to say that this as a deal is irresponsible is not fair. Can I then move on to PC Gordon's statement, please, which starts at page 57. He's given you lots of crime stats. I'm going to give you one reason why they're not reliable. Because this deal's been running throughout the whole of the 2-year period. So he says this year it's worse than it was last year. the Bargain Buster's been running for 2 years. So it can't be argued on his evidence that the reason that the stats might have gone up this year is because of the fact that the Bargain Buster is running, because it was running the year before as well. So you draw your natural conclusion towards that, if you would please. And importantly, none of that is directed towards these premises. It's directed towards a wider geographical position. And I think, I can't remember which one of the panel raised this issue. How can we be sure that it relates to people who've been in Mambo at all, exclusively, where they've been at other times? And you can't. And you've got to judge this on evidence. So I would say again that it's not reliable evidence to bring this about. You've got an officer who's created a QR code for anybody who's out on a nighttime patrol, and I'm not trying to diminish how difficult it is in any city centre for the police to deal with people generally, but a QR code for officers to log in when they see the Booze Buster wristband. It's Price Buster. I keep calling it Booze Buster, Price Buster. I do apologise. If having created that QR code, it's my view, when I saw that page and I started to read it, I was going to start to see horrendous statistics of how that's been reported into the police, and there are none. It's not something that's suggested from that QR code, which is promoting officers to bring it to the attention of PC Gordon. There isn't anything behind that that would cause you difficulties in thinking that this was the main or any serious cause of what's going on in a town centre where lots of other operators are doing their own deals. Next door's premises has its own drinks promotion. It's not operated by this company in Silver Street. I've walked around Doncaster, you will have done. You'll have seen lots of different promotions offered by virtually every different licensed premises in the town centre. I then would go on to page 60, if I please can, which is the advert. I think it's actually page 62. So page 60, you can see the advert, and then page 62, you can see another screenshot where the word unlimited drinks was displayed in the advert. It was agreed that that would not be in any social media advertisement, and that's one instance of where it inadvertently was retained. It hasn't been since. It is never in any of the advertisements in relation to the deal. So any suggestion of unlimited drinks is not advertised now as part of the deal that people can have when they buy their wristbands. Now, PC O'Donnell's statement, again, which starts at page 63, talks about an observation from the 17th of May 2024. Now, again, I can't ask questions of PC O'Donnell. I can't ask questions of the local licensing officer because they're not here today. But look at the second paragraph. At 22:44 hours, we were parked up outside a row of bars for high visibility patrols. When I've looked to my right, I saw a male I now know to be Kean Parson. He was squaring up to a member of door staff and shouting in his face. I then witnessed him throw a punch towards the member of door staff, but didn't make contact with him. Now, this is an example of an incident which is being put forward to you to support an interaction on the premises licence for Club Mambo, when what it shows is that the door staff was stopping somebody who shouldn't be going into licensed premises from going into licensed premises. Now, I would suggest that's best practice. What that person then does in the way that he behaves is nothing to do with my client's premises. If he decides, having been told he can't come in, to lash out at the person who tells him he can't come in, that cannot be used against us as an operator in a negative way. No evidence that he's got a wristband on, no evidence that he's been in any of the other premises that are part of the deal, no evidence that he's been in Mambo. So, with the greatest of respect, that cannot be used as evidence against the venue. Can I then ask you to turn to page 65? And I do have significant concerns about this witness statement and the vast number of photographs that you've again been asked to rely on. What we're told is that the person who gave this witness statement and provided the photographs wanted to remain anonymous. We know he's a commercial operator who is against us in the vicinity of our premises. I'm not going to name him, but he has his own deals. His deals are more aggressive, we would say, in the way that shots and discounts are available to his customers. He has a reason for trying to influence the police and you as a licensing subcommittee. And his evidence that's provided through the police cannot be relied upon. I can't cross-examine him or question him, so we're not in a court, question him in front of you because he's not here. But he produces all of these pictures. And again, members of the panel have said, what do they really show us? What can we assess from these pictures? Do they show that there is a negative impact as a result of Club Mambo? Well, no, I don't think you reach that high watermark, which is the police's case, because you can't read into what's happening in any of those photographs. You don't know when they were taken, at what time, when and which of my clients' premises the people who have wristbands have been in, whether they've been in the competitors' premises. You cannot give any weight to this at all. And I think PC Gordon, seeing this come in, has tried to plug the gap in what is said about the photograph at page 105, when he gives second-hand hearsay evidence to you about what was happening in that picture. He's confirmed he wasn't there, he didn't hear it, it's what's been given to him as information from witness A. So in the circumstances, I ask you to give no credit to the photographs and the way that that's been brought to your attention as part of these proceedings. Page 115 to 117 you start to see the interaction that my clients have had with the police. When he says that we've not agreed to the action plan, we haven't agreed to the action plan in the way that it was promoted, mainly because we do 80 or 90% of that voluntarily already, and the other 20%, 10% that we don't, we're going to tell you as a committee why we shouldn't be doing it. So if you read that, and if you read all of the documentation that my client has put in to respond to this police case, which I'm not going to go through in detail because I know you will have read it, you can ask questions of my clients if you wish. Just concentrate on the final paragraph of page 117. Given that all the incidents outlined in the background section were dealt with properly and proportionately, we feel that the enforcement of an action plan would be an inappropriate response to these incidents. We feel that the approach to deal with each incident individually is the best way forward. Now, what he could have said as a final paragraph to that is, and here are all of the things that you are asking for in the action plan that we do already voluntarily. So, with the greatest of respect, it's a well thought out response by the operator, both in this email and in the documents that have been provided to you as a licensing committee as part of these proceedings. I'm now going to touch on the detailed incidents that have been put into your pack, which start at page 135, please. Now, I would describe this as the kitchen sink presentation. Let's chuck as much as we can. Now we've decided to review them, let's chuck as much as we can in relation to what we think that we can attribute to the premises at the operator to justify the review. And again, I would say that's not fair. So if we start at page 135, the incident on the 8th of March, if you go down to the outcome section, conclusion of the investigation, there is no crime in relation to this matter. If we then go to page 137, which is the incident on the 1st of March, again, there is no crime as a result of this matter. If we then go to page 53, which is the email from Adam Wood to Mark Walton, Lisa Bird and Joseph Hunt, again, no evidence where the person had been, when he'd consumed alcohol, whether he'd consumed it in other premises. If we then go to page 145, which is the next incident, this is the incident that I've already dealt with, where we stopped the individual from coming into the premises. Page 100 and bear with me a second, 151, the incident on the 26th of January, again no crime in the outcome. Page 157, 26th of January, it's a repeat of a previous incident. Page 159, 12th of January, no crime. It's a domestic argument between two people who are out on a night out. That can't be attributed to my client's premises or the deal that is the real focus of why the police are before you today. Page 161, 6th of the 10th, no crime. Page 165, again reported by the doorman, it's a domestic incident, no crime. Page 167, named suspect identified, evidential difficulties, no crime. So you can go through all of that, which when you pick it up and first look at it, think, my God, what's going on at Club Mambo? It's not fair. And the final one, page 185, no crime. A common assault. So we get this horror story situation that's fed to you by the officer at the beginning, that he deals with all the serious crime stats that deal with everything from murder down to common assault. And it's designed to frighten, but when you actually strip away behind, the evidence that's here does not substantiate what the police are saying about these premises. My client's other 5 premises, he's never had a review at any of these 6 premises, and in particular the way that this is all risk assessed properly, it's properly trained, and it's properly ensured that it's a safe environment. Can I deal with Mr. Delaney's submissions now, please? What I would say in relation to that is, I think in relation to the start of the interaction between my clients and Mr. Delaney on these potential issues, is that there was a difficulty between my clients and the landholder of the building. We've got a lease in those premises. We've got a lease next door in Ballers, and that is open to you in review proceedings. You could look at the case and you could say, you know, in all of the circumstances, having listened to what the police have told us and having listened to what Mr. Wers produced and what the client's put in his documentation, which is in your pack as an additional item, and the risk assessment, bringing in since the incident and that risk assessment, we've now got tabarded, keep forgetting what they're called, welfare chaperones who are outside making sure that if anybody is in difficulties because they've consumed a bit too much, they've gone past the way that they should have done, not just at our premises, at any of the premises in the area, we'll help them and we'll triage them and we'll make sure that they get any support that they get. Now that isn't the operating style of a premises licence holder who isn't trying to do his very best to make sure that he is providing a safe environment to create an atmosphere in Doncaster where people can go out and have a good time for good value for money. So at page A7 of the additional documentation, which I was helped by Amber this morning because I couldn't remember, or was it Hayley? I couldn't remember the document number, but it's in the additional documents. It's a document entitled Mambo at the top, and it's in real terms a list of conditions that are being sought as. I'm hoping that you've got that documentation. It was an additional document, but it is an important document. We did check on the register this morning, and it is on there, but
It was in the additional documents that were sent out for the first hearing.
when we looked on
Mark
Hayley's
Walton.
website earlier, we did find them, and they're entitled A7. Too much paperwork. It's a list of conditions that's headed Mambo at the top. It's a list with 18 conditions on it. I think Councillor Healy's found it. He's doing better than everybody else, I think. Yeah. So it's a list of 18 conditions. And it's in the paperwork as document A7.
Can I just stop you there? Obviously, we haven't had time to read what this has been brought forward, but would be some of them what's in the crisis buster risk assessment, would it be the same or similar thing?
Bear with me 1 second.
I think you've had that since last time.
Yeah, I'm going to say we've had this, so I'm just asking, is this the same or similar? Harry Clare's got it.
Oh, right.
Oh, no, it's here.
there.
Yeah.
Have a quick look.
Yeah.
Is there a page number for that? Sorry to be a nuisance.
No, it's just additional. It's just, no, this is just additional information that came to us.
Well, it's quite bizarre because I don't have that on my Mambo action plan, but I do have the Mambo conditions document that I've just referred to.
And the 27th of August?
And it's as A7. Is that the one I sent there? Don't know, just don't worry. So it says, the document pack I have is entitled Crisis Buster Risk Assessment, which is the risk assessment. Then it comes into a document that's entitled Mambo Action Plan, which is A3, A4, A5, A6, and then it starts the conditions at A7 to A8.
Did it come out on email? Because maybe I haven't seen the email.
It was in the an additional pack when at the last meeting.
Yes.
I've just got that one. Sorry. Is it? Oh, is it in that one? Oh, sorry about that. Yes, I have. I've marked it all up.
Brilliant.
It's all been marked. Sorry.
I thought I was going mad for a moment, but
No,
we all have it.
I do apologise. That's my fault. I'm full of paper.
So, as I understand it from the police's case, they're saying to you that what they would like you to do is make changes to the premises licence as a part of this review. And these are the conditions that have been put forward as the conditions that they feel are appropriate and proportionate to promote the licensing objectives. And in all of the circumstances, but for 3 of those conditions, we agree with all of them. And as I've said to you, we've for the best part, been doing the most of this voluntarily anyway. So hopefully this is narrowing the issues down. So the conditions that we would not wish to be attached to the premises licence are conditions 3 and 4, conditions 11, because that links in with condition 3, and I would ask you to give consideration to conditions 17 and 18, because I think those are the duties of the SIA company, not the premises licence holder. So if I make submissions now as to why I wouldn't want the conditions that we think are disproportionate and wouldn't promote the licensing objectives and therefore shouldn't be added to the licence. So, Chair, you'll go through all of the other ones. So nobody under 18 allowed in the premises. We do that already.
Can I just come back with that one? No one under 18 allowed in the premises.
Correct.
But on your challenge 25, you're going to operate challenge 25?
Yes. So challenge 25 is if you don't look over the age of 18, you've got to prove to us. So if you don't look over the age of 25, you've got to prove to us that you're over 18. So we all started on challenge 21, and then as children started to look older, younger, we moved to challenge 25 to make it a more effective tool. So basically, anybody who turns up at the premises who does not look 25 has to show a valid ID that they're over 18. That's accepted by the Portman Group. It's accepted by everybody as being the due diligence test in relation to good practice.
Chair, I'm sorry, Mr. Work. Can I just interrupt at this point, please? It appears that Miss Tasker has not made representations following Mr. Delaney's representations. I didn't want to interrupt Mr. Were mid-flow, but it's a question of whether you want to stop now and allow Miss Tasker to speak now. If you do want to make representations, that is.
Well, I'm nearly
finished,
and I'm more than happy for Ms. Tasker to put her point of view forward. I don't have anything really to deal with on that. If there's anything that comes out in oral submissions that I need to address with, then perhaps I could deal with that afterwards. But this is my last piece of my case, so we're nearly there now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, condition 3, a recognised ID scanner linked to a central working database. We really don't think that that's an appropriate or proportionate condition to be attached to our premises licence. And it's not because we're trying to be obstructive, but if you know our premises and the entrance to them, number one, in physical terms, there isn't anywhere for it to go that wouldn't have a massively negative effect on actually allowing people into the premises. It's not like it's got a double-fronted doorway. It's a landing that then goes downstairs, and it's impossible to cite an ID scan in that position. Now, my understanding in relation to the ID scanners in Doncaster is that none, if any, that were voluntarily offered by the police are being used permanently or effectively. And the evidence that the police gave you is that they're useful in relation to fake ID and underage. The evidence against my premises is that there is potentially, and we do have some disagreement with it, evidence of one person underage who got into the premises. So it would be disproportionate to be scanning everybody that comes in when there isn't any evidence to really reach that threshold that underage scanning is needed. And again, no evidence to suggest to you that where they have been put in Doncaster, that they're producing any evidence that's useful. So it's a disproportionate condition, even if they do pass the threshold of data protection issues. And I have concerns about that, and I've advised some clients that they don't. Condition 4, no drinks promotions allowed on the premises at any time. That's an unenforceable, ambiguous and unlawful condition. Why do I say that? Because you can't have conditions on a licence that go away from the mandatory conditions. There is case law, the Summerfield decision, which is a piece of case law that says you can't have conditions on licences that are dealt with by other legislation. it would be unique in my respectful submissions to you to have a licence condition which is not consistent with a condition that's actually part of the licensing legislation. So the mandatory condition is the mandatory condition. Every premises licence that sells alcohol has that condition upon it. And this would create uncertainty, difficulties, and would be an unlawful condition to be placed on the premises. Because what is a drinks promotion? If on a Tuesday night we decide to sell Carlsberg 10p cheaper because we've got a barrel that's nearing the end of its sell-by date, that's a drinks promotion. We wouldn't be able to do it. So it would be anti-competitive, it would be unlawful, and it would therefore be unfair in all of the circumstances. And with the greatest of respect to the way that the police are putting this case for you, there would still be another 5 of the 6 premises that are part of this deal that wouldn't have this condition on the premises licence. So from my starting submissions, it's an ill-conceived approach that's being taken in what they're trying to achieve. Conditions 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, we already do. We're already happy to have those enshrined on the licence as conditions. Condition 11 is a CCTV condition that links into the ID scan, so it wouldn't be needed. Conditions 12, 13, 14, 15, we already do. The only wording I would ask you to amend on condition 15 is that an accredited SIA security company will be used, security staff to be employed from 7 o'clock.
Just opening time would be best, wouldn't it?
Yeah, what time do we open?
At different times.
Yeah, we open at different times, quite often after 7 o'clock. So to comply with that condition, we'd have to have an SIA doorman on duty even when we weren't open, which quite clearly isn't right. So perhaps we could have that reworded to say security staff to be employed from opening of the premises, so that we've always got somebody there. And just in the final bullet point, South Yorkshire Police should be alerted, I think, rather than altered. And then paragraph 17 and 18, conditions 17 and 18, again, I do have some concerns that we are going to have body-worn cameras. We think it's a good idea, actually. But I think the duty should be on the Security Industry Act company that provides the door supervisors. This would give us some leeway to really make sure that they do that. My concern on a condition put on the licence that potentially we can't, we could trip up on that without actually doing it ourselves. One of their doormen could turn up without a body-worn camera, and we would be at fault for that. So I think that should be an issue for the door company. And again, condition 18, training of the door supervisors should be a condition that the door company is dealing with, not the onus being placed on the premises licence holder. So I'm sorry I've had to be robust, but that's my job. I've got to protect my clients to the best of my abilities. Please accept in all of this the tenor of the documentation that's been provided by my clients and the offer to continue to work with the police to make sure that we've got a safe environment for Doncaster. But the approach being taken is an incorrect one. It's not fair, and it's not evidentially proved that this would be the conditions that are being asked for that I don't want to offer are appropriate or proportionate to promote the licensing objectives. So I think I've dealt with everything, other than if there's anything that comes up in the next presentation, but I don't think there will be, that should be helpful to the committee to make a decision.
Few questions. Obviously, you did say that your premises are leased from this company, and they have the say over what needs doing. Do they pay for it, or do you pay for it?
No. So just to be clear on that, the operation of the premises is by my client company, who's the premises licence holder. So they are duty bound to do everything that you tell them to do under the premises licence and the condition. Where there has been a falling between two stools is with Mr Delaney's position and the improvements that he wants in the premises, not promotion of the licensing objectives. That's been occasioned because there's been a bit of a standoff between the landlord and my clients as the operator. That's resolved. We're there. It's the reason why it's been slower than it should have been, but it's sorted. I think the issues that Mr Delaney may have in relation to whether there are proceedings that need to be taken as to what's happened previously, in my submission, shouldn't trouble you in relation to your discretion today, but they are issues that will be resolved.
Because has there any date been given that the landlord will do the repairs? What's necessary? Is he, because it is public safety?
It is. I think at the moment, I've been kept in the loop of the contact between my clients and Mr Delaney. I've seen all the messages that have gone backwards and forwards. I think there was a view that there was an initial view that the threshold had been reached and everything was resolved by my clients. They've accepted from Mr Delaney's recent communications that they need to prove that to him, and they're going to do that immediately. This is something that they're going to do irrespective of these proceedings straight away.
Thank you. So all your information goes to Mr Delaney, and Mr Delaney, would you report back to this committee or to our licensing officers that the work has been carried out once you receive the information?
I can do that, yeah.
So, because it is, like I say, public safety.
Yeah. Is it appropriate for me to make a comment on some of the comments that come in my way?
No, I haven't finished my questions yet. We've looked at this, and is this going to be the risk assessment for Mumbai, or are we going to put it through all the premises, or is this just for Mambo, sorry. Yeah, but I was just wondering if it
if it helps the committee, the conditions that we're offering, which say Mambo on the top, if you are accepting of my submissions, will be added to the Mambo licence. The other 5 premises aren't before you as reviews today. But in relation to the risk assessment and the best practice in relation to training, making sure the staff are up to speed on everything, that happens for all 6 of the premises. So you've got the comfort of knowing that the risk assessment is in effect on the package. The conditions we're offering in relation to the specific premises that are before you today.
Thank you.
Not questions, just sort of responses to some statements that have been made.
Well, I think that should come in his closing submissions if there's no questions, and now is time for questions.
Does that happen? Is that the case? Oh, right, okay. Can I ask, in relation to asking an electrician to do work at the premises, when you first made contact with an electrician to do that?
Well, I can't remember exactly when it was. Oh, sorry. I haven't spoken for ages. No, I can't remember exactly when we did it. Sorry.
I served a notice last year, which was acknowledged by the company, and so the notice was served in May last year. obviously there's been contact with an electrician this year, and that process seems to have sped up significantly since the police put their application for review in. Did you make any contact, from recollection, with an electrician last year?
I can't remember. Sorry.
Okay. Another question.
Sorry, it's Michelle Clark.
Could just go away, finish their duty, and go and take that body cam with them and leave. So a recommendation for us, if you decide to look at the condition you kindly presented earlier, is that the company to own the body cam, as they will be the owner of the data, as it is their premises. I thought you were going to say something, that's all. Yeah, so it's just a recommendation that it's a company that owns the body cam, and they are supplied and signed to those staff that are coming to work, so they can keep an eye and they can keep control of the actual data from their location.
Just come back with that. So the company that supplies the door staff as the camera, the body camera, it belongs to those. And so if you need data, you would go to the company.
Yeah, it's very difficult because ultimately it is because due to staff sickness and people not turning up or events that do come, it makes it very difficult for us to trace a particular door staff. But ultimately, if the body cam belongs to the actual venue, it is, in terms of investigation, it's easier for an officer to go actually to Mambo's and speak to the manager and get access to that footage quickly. And when we talk about speed, speedy justice, so in terms of we can actually get cases up and running very quickly would be a better option.
Thank you. I would now like to ask the applicant if they wish to summarise their submission.
Thank you. And thank you to PC Gordon, who I think has done that for part of it already in relation to the one condition in relation to the body-worn footage, and that the applicant's submission would it be more appropriate and more useful if it was a responsibility of the premises. And a wording could be that at least one of the SIA registered door person who's outside the premises is fitted with an appropriate camera. That would reduce cost, but it would also allow the police access quickly, as Peter Gordon referred to, in case of need. And it'd also be easier to monitor compliance with that condition. That's the submissions from the applicant in relation to the body-worn footage. There seems to be 3 points of contention now: the promotion, the ID scanner, and the body-worn footage. I'm not going to go into the case again as I did in my opening, but ultimately, in relation to the promotion, an alternative restriction could be to try and restrict this type of promotion, so no unlimited drinks over multiple premises, not no drinks whatsoever. And you've also heard extensive evidence about ID scanners and their use, their legality, and their benefit. So I don't propose to go over that again. But it seems to be they're the 3 issues, and that's the applicant's position on all 3. They should have appropriate conditions in place.
Like the interested party, if they've got anything else to say.
Thank you. I'm not going to go through everything again, just to kind of summarise.
Would you like to summarise?
I will, Chair, but you'd be glad to know that having spouted off for a long time before, I'm not going to repeat any of that. I know you're an experienced committee, I know many of you, and I know that you will take into consideration everything that I've put forward in relation to the submissions that I have. I still didn't really fully understand what the police's position in their closing submissions are, but my submissions to you are that a fair disposal of this review would be the adding to the old licence modernising it, the conditions that I set out in my primary submission. So from the documents that you've got, it is my my submissions that conditions 3 and 11 would be disproportionate. That's the ID scan and its CCTV footage. No drinks promotions allowed on the premises at any time. You've heard my submissions as to why I take the view that that's an unlawful, unworkable and disproportionate position. Please amend condition 15 so that it's from the start time of the premises opening, not 7 o'clock. And I still suggest that 17 and 18 shouldn't be on the premises licence. Just very briefly, in relation to a couple of other sections of the section 182 guidance that are relevant. Paragraph 9.4.3 of the document at page 81 says, the authority's determination should be evidence-based, justified as being appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives and proportionate to what is intended to achieve. That's why I went through the police evidence carefully, because when you pick it up, it's quite scary. When you analyse it, it isn't. So that's why I went through that in detail. Paragraph 9.4.4, determination of whether an action or step is appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives requires an assessment of what action or step would be suitable to achieve that end. While this does not therefore require a licensing authority to decide that no lesser step will achieve the aim, the authority should aim to consider the potential burden that any condition would impose on the premises licence holder, as well as the potential benefit in terms of the promotion of the licensing objectives. That's why I was careful to set out the benefits of the deal. It allows these 6 premises to stay open. It allows for local DJs to play, local bands to play. If we put those businesses at risk, then you run the risk of a disproportionate position of removing those facilities, which I would suggest are of value to Doncaster, particularly when you've got an operator who's put together such careful risk assessments. So paragraph 11.20 is the final section of the section 182 guidance document, and it's probably the most important, because it says, in deciding which of these powers to invoke, so your decision-making process today, it is expected that licensing authorities should, so far as possible, seek to establish the cause or causes of the concerns that the representations identify. And here's the critical bit. The remedial action, so you're looking at remedial action, not punishments in any review, it's remedial action taken should generally be directed at these causes and should always be no more than an appropriate and proportionate response to address the causes of concerns that instigated the review. And that's why I've been careful to unpick some of the police evidence. Now, I'm disappointed that 2 of your other responsible authorities have joined in this review. There's no evidence to suggest that they would have, from the health and safety issues or the food hygiene issues, would have launched a review themselves, but they're here as part of this review legitimately. So whilst I've been listening to what they've been saying, I think there's work to do from my clients to get that all boxed off quickly. You may, as a licensing subcommittee, think it would be appropriate then to add 2 additional conditions onto the licence, which say that the premise licence holder is to comply with all requirements under health and safety legislation, and the premise licence holder is to comply with all requirements under the food hygiene legislation. And then you know that he's under a duty, not only the primary legislation, but he's under a duty to do that as part of his premise licence, because he wants this all put to bed.
Thank you for that, because I was concerned about the food, because there has been people taken really ill with allergies, and
it's very topical.
And, you know, there is a lot of people with this kind of illness. Thank you for that.
So those are my submissions.
As we've heard from all parties, the subcommittee will go into private session to deliberate. Members will now deliberate the application in private sessions. All parties are asked to leave the room. Once we have reached our decision, you will be invited back into the meeting for the committee to present their decision. If you are unable to remain, please indicate now. If you don't want to remain, you know, we can be in touch with you. Thank you. After clock, dear.
No.
All right, thank you very much. We do apologise. Thank you.